Coming up on UGTV, Standing Committee Meetings of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. We begin with a meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee. This will be followed by the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee.
I'm going to call the meeting of Public Works and Safety Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to the meeting, and public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item can do so when the item is up for discussion. You would have up to 3 minutes, and we'd ask you to come forward to the microphone, and we would recognize you. And we would ask that for recording purposes that you speak directly into the microphone. Could we have a roll call?
Roll call. Brian?
Here.
Philbrook? Markley? Here. Kane? Here. Johnson?
Here.
Bynum?
Here. Next item is our approval of minutes from our October 23rd meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on our October minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? The minutes are approved. On our committee agenda, under the item number 1, we have an ordinance regarding alternative project delivery methods for city construction projects. And this is requested to come fast track to our December 21 full commission meeting. And legal's here to present.
Good evening, commissioners. What you have before you, the first 2 items are very similar, and it pertains to construction methods. So when we got our new Public Works Director, Mr. Jeff Fisher's here today to answer any questions, he came up with some ideas to kind of match more what the construction industry is doing, which a newer trend in the last few years is to look at alternative project delivery methods. And this is construction management at risk and design build. And the Unified Government is currently doing our very first construction management at risk project with the new juvenile building. And we've done a few design builds over the years, but we haven't aggressively pursued them. And so we started looking at how we could do more with less and look at some of these innovative ways of doing it. And as I looked at state law, I noticed that state law pertains to counties and how counties can utilize these procedures, and it sets out the methods and means of doing it, but there was nothing for cities. So Jeff and I discussed it, and we thought, let's amend our procurement code and set out the methods so that we can utilize it for city projects. A lot of cities aren't like us. We are unique, being a consolidated city-county government, and it seems like something that we're going to want to use in the future.
Yes, Commissioner Markley.
I was going to move to approve.
Oh. All right. We have a motion and a second to approve this. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Brian?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye.
Kane? Johnson?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye, thank you. And the item number 2 is a resolution setting out Commission's designee for alternative construction methods. This item is also requested to be fast-tracked to December 21. And Misty, if you want to just explain this one a little further.
Commissioners, when I was going through state statute, it is very specific about items that must be done and the order of which it must be done for design build and CMR. And a lot of it required a lot of attention from the commission, but it did allow us to designate one person or various persons who can make some of these decisions for the commission. Right now, our procurement code already authorizes the purchasing director or the department in charge of the procurement to do some of these things subject to the administrator's approval. And just trying to be very official, I thought we could formally name it so there's no question about the authenticity of future actions.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Kane, Johnson,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you. Item 3 is a resolution authorizing a survey of land for the bridge number 159 improvement at North 34th Street, south of Georgia. We have Mr. Haga here. I think you have a number of items.
I do. All 3 items are essentially for the same thing, which is they authorize, or I should say they declare the necessity of the bridge projects that are laid out in these resolutions, authorize for the survey of lands to determine what easements may be needed on each property, as well as authorizing the chief legal counsel to submit an ordinance for any sort of condemnation that may be required. The standard procedure for beginning property acquisition for a project under Kansas law.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Could we have roll call?
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Kane, Johnson,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. The next item is a resolution authorizing a survey of land for Bridge 71.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Kane, Johnson,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. And the last item here is, or the last item of this kind, is a resolution authorizing a survey for Bridge 237.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have roll call?
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Kane, Johnson,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you very much. And the last item on this agenda is an update on our fiber network implementation and body camera initiative. We have Alan House, and we also have several other folks. We have Major Rance Quinn, is that correct, Major? And looks like Lydiana LeBoy, hello. Thank you. Good evening, Alan. You can get us started.
Right. Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to provide this informational update on the fiber network. I'll start with introducing the folks who are up here with me. Major Rance Quinn from the KCKPD, Lydiana LeBoy, the UG traffic engineer, and Jonathan Bimini from Unite Private Networks. So I think when we last came before you in May, Chief Ziegler and I gave you an update on body cameras on the fiber network. That is an integral part of that. This evening's update is a continuation of that discussion around fiber in particular. And I know there was interest from commissioners on this body for this project in particular. And so we want to give you an end-of-year update, kind of where we are and the progress that's been made so far. So that's our purpose here this evening. So just to recap the 4 objectives overall for the fiber initiative. First and foremost is supporting public safety and KCKPD and the fiber network as a foundational element of the implementation of body cameras, but also to support other aspects, in-car cameras and video traffic in general. Supporting UG operational efforts, so think of, again, traffic video management, everything, any sort of UG operations can benefit from improved connectivity. So there's lots of opportunities there. Economic development, so how can this project also support efforts to improve connectivity in corridors, business corridors in particular, that haven't had access to the kind of speeds that support business formation, growth, and expansion. And lastly is community access. So think of how do we continue to address issues of digital equity, digital connectivity, digital connection for other organizations within our community. So these, again, are the four priorities we're trying to approach. The guiding principles, as we went through this, how do we reuse existing conduit that's under roads, that's been put there over time through road projects? How do we share technology infrastructure across departments? So again, maximizing the value for this project. How do we meet the security requirements specific for KCKPD as well as for other users of the network? Do we meet, again, those operational needs? How do we provide redundancy so that we're not subject to, if a line gets cut in one place, it doesn't bring the whole system down? And how do we maximize the value of this investment in fiber that the Commission has approved? So I'm going to introduce our vendor partner. We earlier this year selected Unite Private Networks as the vendor for the fiber build-out. They are a Kansas City-based company headquartered in Zona Rosa, and we've entered into a public-private partnership with UPN, in which we are getting a network that has 72 fibers, which is more than enough adequate for our operational needs across all our departments. UPN will utilize existing UG conduit where available, and there were significant sections where we had conduit in the ground. Areas where UPN builds out to meet commercial customers will ride along, so we'll get fibers pulled to those locations as well, so we can grow our own network to cover connections to other places that aren't on the main core network that we're building out to meet the PD needs right now. And then we get 12 fibers as well in 2 diverse routes to what's called the Carrier Hotel in downtown KC-Mo. So this is essentially the hub where connections from companies, from internet providers come together, and it allows us essentially to buy wholesale internet and other services. And then we've had frequent coordination, weekly meetings between between our technology group, the PD, Public Works, Emergency Management, and BPU. So it's been an effort in close coordination. So I'll turn it over to Major Quinn.
Okay, so this is the PD ring, if you will. As you can see, it goes up to Parallel Avenue, travels west out to the Legends, and then south back through the Legends and down east on State. As you can see, the majority of our locations are West Patrol, Police Academy, 911 Center, at the NRC, Fleet Center, and our new South Patrol, of course, Police Headquarters, and the dash line that you see at the very bottom right-hand corner that says SOU. That is our SWAT unit. They handle high-risk warrant service for us, and they carry body cameras when they do those warrants. And currently, we have no ability to transfer that video data from point A to point B, basically from our SWAT unit back to our police headquarters. And so this entire data ring, or if you will, the fiber ring, will allow us to transmit data from one location to the next much faster and much better than we currently do now. And we have video training that we try to do, but the way we have to do it now is that we have to move it from one server to the next, from one location to the next, or create DVDs, those kind of things, in order to have all of our officers throughout the different divisions watch those videos. And so this would increase the way we do business tremendously. All right, so these are the locations that we would do that. West Patrol, Police Academy, the Communications Center, Midtown Patrol, Community Policing, Fleet Center, South Patrol Headquarters, the Carrier Hotel that Mr. House talked about. And then we've got our future connection sites, which are SOU. Right now, we don't have the funding in order to do the SOU part. So we're trying to work through how we're going to try to pay for that. Traffic support would be our traffic support unit, which is off Leavenworth Road, 60-something in Leavenworth. There's talk of maybe moving location at some point, maybe in the near future. So it's quite an expense to provide fiber to that location. So we're trying to work through that. We don't want to do that if we're going to move, 6 months from now. And then animal services, currently our animal services can't transmit data very efficiently from their location to the headquarters. So we hope to get them hooked up at some point as well.
Major,
Yes, ma'am.
just a quick question on those future sites. So traffic support and animal services, are you, and special ops, are you, should that be a budget issue that we should be watching for in the spring as we move into the next budget cycle?
Yeah, Mr. House could probably answer a little bit better than me. The idea was that as we move along with this fiber project and they start to sell the non-PD fiber strands, that funds would come back into the project that might allow us to then finance the cost of hooking up our future locations, if you will.
No, that's accurate. So part of this is we essentially set a ceiling on the price of the project, and then as Unite gains additional connectivity to commercial customers, that will actually bring that price down, and we are hopeful and have confidence that that will in fact give us the headroom, if you will, to be able to make some of these additional connections. So it's possible that, just to use animal services as an example, that one, you kind of go down 18th and then you hang a dog leg to the left to go over to Park, or you come down. So there's a couple of different ways you can kind of, I wouldn't say skin the cat, but you know, it's to get there. Pardon the pun, exactly. So that's one that could be in the future. Again, we'll see how much, again, capacity we can create.
Okay, thanks.
And just as an example of how this is going to increase our efficiency, we're doing a lot of this stuff now. For example, we currently have in-car cameras, except the only location that those in-car cameras will upload is at our police headquarters. So our officers in the field and supervisors spend a lot of time driving memory cards from point A to point B so we can then upload that information. And then once we add to that body-worn cameras, that's just a whole host of more data that's going to have to transmit across the lines. And technically, we really couldn't, technically maybe you could right now, but it would just take massive amounts of time in order to do that. And so once the fiber goes online, that's going to increase our efficiency, hopefully not driving around anymore, delivering memory cards and all those kind of things. Our current phone system, like animal services, we're having problems with the phones down there, and we can't put them on our current Cisco network because we don't have the connectivity between animal services and police headquarters. And so that's another issue that we're hoping to fix. So we're having to pay AT&T additional cost to fund phones just for that location. And so, I mean, there's a lot of that goes on right now.
So we won't go into too much detail on this, but just to give you a little bit of high level in terms of the technical part of the PD network, it does meet the requirements for CJIS, which is the Criminal Justice Information System that Kansas and other states operate under. It will be managed by the PD, again, for security reasons. And the way it's designed is that there will be 2 independent connections for each PD location. One from each location will go to 911 center, one will go to PD headquarters. So you'll have 2 legs, each capable of 10 gigabits per leg, creating 20 gigabit total capacity per station. So just again to give you a sense of scope, this is 100 times more capacity than exists at those stations today. So you know, we think that'll meet both current and future needs for video transfer.
I have a question. With all these technical terms, I'm way over my head right now, so I'm going to ask a very rudimentary question. How much capacity in that are we getting into right now in terms of time? In other words, will it hold so much and then we'll have to download some of it or get rid of it, some or clean it up, or how does that work? Or is it just into infinity in terms of the information that we can capture? Makes sense.
It does. So one way to think of it is like a water pipe in a sense. And so you can have, you can think of how fast water can flow through a pipe, but you can also think of the diameter of the pipe can carry more water. So we're doing both of those things. We're both increasing the speed at which data can transmit going through fiber optics, as well as significantly increasing the diameter of the pipe, the capacity that it can push data through. Now, on the other end of that, I think part of your question was, what do we do with that data? And that gets into the question of storage and, and I think as we presented in May, sort of the PD has put together a policy draft policy around how long to retain video, and that, so how much we store it is all dependent on what some of those parameters are on the policy side.
Not necessarily on how much capacity we have, but just on the parameters of what length of time is according to our policy that we need to keep that information.
Just to kind of clarify, let's say, for instance, right now we're using our in-car cameras that have a video resolution of ABC. I won't get technical, but of ABC. That resolution is reduced down so it can transfer from point A to point B in our locations. So when you get that video and you try to look at it on the screen, it's a real small picture. You try to blow it up to see a tag, you can't because it's really pixelated and all that kind of stuff. That's due to our limited connectivity between one location and the next. And we're hoping that this right here will allow us to use high definition video so that you can see a much larger picture. And when you zoom that in, you can see details that we can't see today. And so that's kind of how where we're at right now versus where we're heading into in the future.
Good enough. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And then the second to last bullet there, between the 911 center and PD headquarters will be, again, 2 strands on different redundant routes that will be 40 gig initially, up to 100 gig capable, and this will be sort of the backbone of transmitting through the network, and that will provide over, again, 200 times more capacity than the current network. So bottom line is we're future-proofing this with the capabilities that are being put in today, and this should meet the needs for the PD for now and for the foreseeable future. And then the last point is that it does have redundant connections into PD headquarters and into 911 center. So, we're limiting our exposure to somebody with a backhoe cutting a line and the whole system going down, because we'll be able to route it immediately back over the other way. So in addition, as I said, we're trying to achieve multiple objectives with this. There are other public safety considerations, so we've identified those fire stations along the main route that you saw. There are several along parallel and state that we can connect into as we go through this project. Also, as part of this, we've been in conversation and talking with Mark, Mid-America Regional Council. They run the PSAP, the Public Safety Access Point, for the entire region, and this will give them fibers that will allow them to then do equipment upgrades at the 911 center. And Mr. Quinn, do you want to speak to that as well?
Yeah, I'll speak to that as well. Currently, right now, over at Mark, they have been upgrading 911 centers to a newer version of the 911 software that they answer the phones with. Our PSAP, that's what it's called, our communication center, is one of the final places to get upgraded. And the reason that is that we can't get this redundancy back up in order to transmit the data. And it's to the point now where almost every other PSAP in the metro area has upgraded, but we haven't. And so that's just one of the issues or hurdles that we face on a daily basis.
Do you want to speak to the Joko too? Or do you want?
Okay, the fiber connection to Johnson County is that what we're planning on doing is our PSAP, or our communication center, is looking to do some electrical upgrades here first, maybe second quarter of next year. And we're hoping to use Johnson County Emergency Operations Center as our backup center. Our 911 calls, Mark can do that now. They can route our calls over to there, and then we'll take our dispatchers and we'll move them out there for a period of 2 to 3 weeks. And while we're doing there, our data has to transmit back and forth between there and here. And the fiber connectivity will allow the dispatchers to sit there and do their job like they do it currently where they're at now. And they wouldn't even see, hopefully with the right connectivity, any kind of difference in the way they do business. All
right, and then the last point there is, again, creating additional capacity for things like traffic camera video management. As the traffic camera system grows, more data and video goes along with it. So I'll turn it over to Lydia LeBoy to speak to the public safety, or the traffic piece.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Lydia LeBoy, the city traffic engineer. And as the network grow, one very important piece of this is the infrastructure that we had on the ground. When we're talking about expanding fiber optic network, this is all on the ground facilities that need to be connected. With all the traffic signals that we have on the ground, we have a significant amount of conduit that connects to intersection by intersection, and we also had already prior to this project, fiber optic connecting these intersections. So when this project started, traffic engineering took the lead to identify that infrastructure that is on the ground so that we can maximize that, that opportunity. We have been working closely with our team, our traffic signal team from BPU to work with UPM, identify all the field constraints that we have. We are using recent conduit that was in the ground, like most recent installed in the last 10 years, plus infrastructure that has been in the ground for many, many more years. So we are, BPU traffic signal team have been very instrumental to work with our vendor, UPN, on identify locations that, to make those routes possible and remove constraints and when there's obstructions. So we have been working with our team to identify, look at the design and identify where the connections are gonna be, where we're gonna be connecting with traffic signals, and how we're gonna be connecting to the different facilities. We also have a project, as part of this project, our fiber optic network that connects traffic signal currently works together with BPU. And as part of this project, we'll be able to separate part of that and including a direct connection to our traffic signal center at BPU on Riverside. We're currently working wastewater water pollution control, relocating that fiber. That fiber will be interrupted by the new project on I-70 bridge, so we have to relocate it, plus that line also has some issues, so we've identified that and will be, as part of this project, relocating. That UPN is part of that relocation process. And then we, as available, as we've been working on projects, and so we know that we want to expand the network, we've been consciously been looking at possibilities to put more on the ground. When we are working on projects and remove dirt, we want to put a conduit on the ground so that it facilitates the communication, whether it's immediately or later. So on all the projects that we have, like 18 and Central and 7th Street projects, we have put conduits on the ground, at least to have the facility so that we can connect now or in the future. And we'll doing the same for future projects as well.
Lydiana?
Yeah.
This might be a really dumb question, but on the 7th Street project that just finished, basically, I've noticed for a while that there is a section directly outside of police headquarters that appears to me to be not done. And I've always wondered if it was because of what you're speaking of, that there's some underground conduit or fiber or something that we're waiting to finish there. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to look at and make sure that we're talking about the same thing, but there's two things going on over there. One, and on the sidewalk itself is when we're doing the connection to the headquarter building. That should be pretty much done. And next to that, we also had a pad for buses, and that we didn't want to touch it because that is a special structure on the pavement that is required for the bus load. And
That might be what I'm thinking of.
so it might look like it's a different.
Yeah,
It's,
looks different and
it looks different.
looks like a piece of the road that just was deliberately not completed. Like,
Completely. I think, unfortunately, those trucks like pass over them and leave those marks from the pavement, the asphalt,
okay.
and it doesn't look that pretty. Sorry. And so I think that's it in my presentation.
And just to build on that, so the 7th Street project did include conduit, so there is new conduit along 7th Street this year, and as well as the 18th and Central intersection rebuild also included conduit. So as we think about in the future, going back to, say, Animal Services, as an example, if we ended up coming down 18th Street and then going out to Animal Services, a section of that around that intersection will already be done, so we won't have to dig into that intersection to get through and around it. So we're trying to both utilize what's there today as well as to think ahead about where could we be in the future, and how do we, again, maximize not only the fiber project, but also the investment that's being made in the infrastructure and the repaving. So for UG operations, there'll also be a direct connection to the Carrier Hotel. Will be capable up to 40 gigs. We won't need that, but compared to a current 300 megabit per second. So again, orders of magnitude more capacity. This matters as we move more workloads into the cloud. So it gives us new options and opportunities there. There's new fiber being run between City Hall and Courthouse. That will serve City Hall, will serve the courthouse building, also is part of the PD network as well. So we're enhancing that connection. And back to the redundancy piece, there'll actually be 3 entrances into City Hall on the north, south, and on the east side. So again, protecting ourselves from an errant backhoe. And then I said the connection to the Carrier Hotel. Economic development. So this is, again, one of the other goals for the project. It is opening up new possibilities for both existing and new organizations, and we're working with Wyandotte. They're very interested in this. Greg Kendall has been very supportive of it. There are already several connections that have been made to hook up several major employers within Wyandotte County. So this is not conceptual. This is actually happening. There are conversations with several small businesses in the downtown area, as well as a potential business incubator in the downtown area. So again, these are all facilitated by and require a higher level of connectivity than is commercially available in those corridors today. And including, in fact, we were this afternoon meeting with Wyandotte in the Casey Chamber, about the connectivity even in their own building. So again, opening up possibilities in some of these commercial corridors. So what does that begin to look like as we think about a downtown sort of network? And so just put this picture in here. It's got a lot of colors going on here. So the yellow orange is existing UG conduit. So where over time conduit has gone into the ground. The solid purple line is where there will be fiber going in as part of this build out, and the dotted lines are where fiber could be going. In a lot of cases there is existing conduit there that will open up potentially new sections and new capabilities for the downtown area. So just want to give you a sense of how we're thinking through this, which is what are the needs in the downtown area, not only for UG operations and connections to police headquarters, to fire headquarters, to City Hall, to our operational core downtown, but also supportive of the economic development piece as well. The last point mentioned was around community access. So we've also been engaging in discussions with several community organizations, starting with school districts. So have conversations with several of the school districts in Wyandotte County. The Housing Authority is also very interested in this, and if you map out their locations, you'll see that there are a lot of locations that are relatively close to the core that's being built out. So they're thinking about that. UG Transit would begin to think about what are with the downtown bus station or Midtown or some of those other areas. Do we is there Wi-Fi that becomes available in those areas? What are the ways that we can begin to the transit could use this kind of service? As well as other nonprofits, including Connecting for Good, which is located in KCK, by Juniper Gardens, Literacy KC, some of these other organizations that are sort of connected to the world of digital inclusion, digital equity. They see the opportunity for expanding the connectivity through the work they're doing in conjunction with this network build-out. To give you a brief update, so work is ongoing on this. The colors on this one, the red is built, the fiber conduit is built, and the fiber is pulled through the conduit. The green, the conduit is in place, and the fiber is being pulled through the conduit. And the blue is not quite there yet, so that will be built out as we go forward. So this is again sort of an active project. There's stuff happening. There's build. You can see see it around when you drive through town. So just wanted to give you an update on where we're at and that we're moving forward on this. So the next steps, we are working with Unite to complete the Carrier Hotel and City Hall connections and PD headquarters connections. We're then followed closely behind by connecting PD headquarters to the 911 center, West Patrol, and Academy. So again, if you look at that status map, you'll see that going from west to east along State Avenue, they're pretty close there. And then build out in all phases, phase 1 locations in the first part of next year. So this is moving at a rapid pace. So that's the update. We again wanted to bring this back to the standing committee, let you know where this is, and the commission made an investment in this, and we're moving ahead at full speed.
So I do have one question on your next steps and your build out, and clearly including the academy, which is on the campus of Kansas City, Kansas Community College. So are they a partner that you're talking to, working with, to include in future expansion?
They're on the list. We haven't gotten to them yet, but they're. We've had sort of a first conversation with them, but haven't sat down in any depth with them. And I don't know if Unite has had conversations, but I know they're also interested in the community college as a potential partner in this as well.
Okay. Any commissioner have a question or a comment?
I did. I think you've answered this in a prior presentation. Where do the community centers, the UG-owned community center, fit in within this timeline, if at all?
Sure. So we've actually gone through and mapped all of the UG facilities. So from community centers to fire stations to pump stations for public works. And so as we go by these areas, it sort of depends on how close to that main core they are at this point in time. And we definitely see opportunity to connect them up. It's maybe a future conversation with the commission as to what sort of a future phase of fiber build out could look like for the community. It's also part of what we saw as the benefit of entering into an agreement with UPN was if they have commercial customers that take us closer towards those destinations, then that will get us significantly further in terms of our build out and lessen the amount that we have to pay to put fiber in the ground.
And then you also had some nonprofits that were listed on, I think, on slide 12.
Yes.
How is that determined in terms of which ones would have access to the network?
So they wouldn't necessarily have access to the network, but they are ones who, like Literacy KC, they do a lot of programming that involves sort of, digital connectivity, so online programming. So it's sort of version 2.0, you might think of some of the efforts that kicked off when Google Fiber came to town around digital inclusion and helping people with workforce skill development around technology, literacy development. So they have worked with other jurisdictions on these sort of digital equity efforts, and they expressed an interest in working with KCK, again, as we build this out. So this is one way to think of it is this is infrastructure like a road. So we are, in a sense, building a digital road in different areas, and the traffic that can benefit from that is, there are lots of potential parties that can benefit from that infrastructure.
Right, and I guess what I'm hearing is because of their relationship with the school district itself, it kind of precipitated the need to extend that to those organizations. I could see a lot of nonprofits saying, hey, we might like to link up as well.
Yeah, right. I think it creates the opportunity for a much broader conversation. And like Connecting for Good, they've got a digital recycling center and computer lab across the street from Juniper Gardens on 3rd Street. And they have been talking with the Housing Authority, and they do some work with them on providing internet access to some of the residents. They see this as potential. It has the potential to sort of take them significantly further down that path in terms of offering quality services.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the committee? Anyone from the public want to speak on this item? I don't see anybody coming forward. I do want to thank you, all of you, and all the colleagues that work with you and staff that works with you, because I know it's a big project, and it sounds like you've kind of come a long way in a short period of time. That's my layman's understanding of what you've done so far. I'm sure you don't want to tell me if I'm wrong.
No,
It seems like you've done a very large amount of work in a short period of time. So we look forward to hearing from you again, maybe in, I don't know, next quarter sometime.
yes, we'll be happy to come back, and you're absolutely right. This has been a cooperative, collaborative effort across lots of departments and organizations, and I think it's bearing fruit.
Thank you very much. And that is the final item of this meeting, which concludes our meeting. And we want to thank you all. VP Board Member Bryant, thank you for being here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you in January. And we're adjourned.
Okay, crew, if nobody needs a break, I think our second meeting was called for 5:30, so we can forge right ahead, right? All right. I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You will have up to 3 minutes to state your comments. Everyone, please use your microphones for accurate recording purposes. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Philbrook. Johnson.
Here.
Kane. Here. Bynum.
Here.
Markley.
Here. Next, we have the minutes from our October 23rd meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those minutes have been approved. The first item on our agenda is an ordinance relating to appointments to standing committees due to a change in election laws. Staff has requested that this item be fast-tracked to the December 21st full commission meeting, and Patrick Waters is here to present.
Thank you, Commissioners. This ordinance simply updates the ordinance, or this amendment simply updates the ordinance to reflect the new state laws and new election timeframes, so that the service for standing committees will begin in January now.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and second. Roll call.
Roll call. Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Aye. Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. Item number 2 is an ordinance extending the sunset date for MBE-WBE program for construction contracts. Staff has also requested that this item be fast-tracked to December 21st full commission meeting. Henry.
Yes,
I was looking for you. I was looking in the wrong spot.
both actually sitting over here tonight. The ordinance that authorizes the Unified Government's MBE-WBE program for construction contracts exceeding $250,000 is scheduled to expire on December 31st. This ordinance would extend that deadline by 2 years to December 31st, 2019. Sharon Reed, who's the purchasing director, is here. I think she has a presentation to fill you in on some of the details of the program.
Great. Welcome, Sharon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Good evening. I'm here to show you our project goals number to let you know how effective the program is working. I'm going to show you the current projects for public works and economic development and some of the future projects. This pertains to our ordinance that's due to expires at December the 31st of 2017, and a review of our current projects and any questions and answers afterwards. So this is just an overall snapshot of some of the projects of the public works projects that require goals that are $250,000 and over. And as you can see, although we've had 2 that did not meet their goals, they really did come close. So we have the 2016 projects. Can you go down? 2016 projects, and I have in there the overall goals of the project, and then the utilization plan that they submit to ensure that they meet those goals, and then to say if they met the goals or not, yes, no. And then the overall dollar figures that comes from the MBEW, which are the subcontractors. So overall, you can see at the bottom that we've had like 80% success rate. So this is the what we've paid out to MBEWs. The project award amounts $12 million and awarded to the subcontractors. And then we're at 16% of the project awards paid out to the MBs and WBs. So our program has, over the last 2 years that I've managed this, we have been very successful. These are the economic development projects. So this is the Turner project. And as you can see, they start out with the original goals, which was 18, 15, and 7. And although they came in and they exceeded the LBEs, and although they did not exceed the MBEs, but they did exceed the WBEs. And as you can see as the pattern, so did the dairy farmers. And we're still currently working with the multiplex at the stadium and at the Rainbow Village. But currently they are exceeding their goals. And actually, this is just a snapshot of the spreadsheet that I showed beforehand, but it just gives you a lot more information. And this is the spreadsheet that I go in and that I do manually put all this information in.
So Sharon, can you send us this presentation via email?
Yes.
Just so we can get a little closer look at anything we might have a specific interest in? And Commissioner Bynum has a question.
Yes.
Thank you. So if I'm understanding correctly, there are projects that are private, if you will, but have a goal
Economic development.
through our ordinance, and then there are public.
Public work.
And you're showing us both?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And just to clarify, sorry,
I was just going to say the first set of numbers she showed you were all of our public or in-house projects and how the unified government over $250,000 threshold played out on those projects.
Okay.
And the second one she's showing is all economic development.
Thank you.
and this particular ordinance just deals with the in-house contracts. It doesn't deal with the economic development agreements. Those are negotiated separately.
And usually kind of one case at a time, right? Okay.
That's correct.
And I'm just going to scroll through, and because this is all of the projects that was in the spreadsheet. I just put them here so that you can have further information. So.
And I do have another question, I'm sorry. So for example, on this last slide, a goal of 9% or a goal of 10%, is that standard across maybe other jurisdictions? Is that a good goal to set? Should we push ourselves and set higher goals? I'm just asking a question for conversation.
Yes, on some of the goals that we do set them at 18%. It just depends on the specific project. And if we can identify what areas in there that we can obtain the MBEs or WEs. And so with the advisory board, we take a look at it, and then at that point, based on the dollar amount, we divide that out, come out with a percentage, and we come to an agreement how those goals can be set.
And Sharon has access to several databases and also her network of peers in procurement in the region to help be able to ferret that out if they would have any challenges. But the folks on the board are obviously interested in what is happening and trying to make sure that we're getting as much participation as possible.
And as of today, we met with the advisory board and we did set goals on 3 future projects that will be coming out in, I think, in 2018.
I'm just curious as to what were some of the comments that you all received back from the advisory board, good, bad, or indifferent?
Actually, the advisory board, we work really well together, and actually their input, they look through those documents and they go through them with a fine-tooth comb as far as some of the descriptions that where we can get the participation in. And so collaboratively, we work to establish those goals. And I think we've had great communication as we move forward.
Other questions?
Need approval for this?
We do.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call on the motion.
Roll call, Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye, and that concludes our meeting. Thanks everyone for your attendance and Merry Christmas to those who we may not see in the